So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Roshira Premadasa, and my supervisor is Dr. Gloria Jung. We are from the Department of Civil Engineering of the Faculty of Engineering of New Mexico State University. And today I'll be presenting to you on a revolutionizing biomedical sensor that is EcoCFTrack, which is an advanced diagnostic and monitoring tracking device for affordable cystic fibrosis care. So here are our team members. So I'm Roshira Premadasa. I'm a doctoral student at NMSU, and my PhD supervisor, Dr. Gloria Jung, she's an assistant professor. Among us are two other team members, Dr. Zhe Wang, who is also an assistant professor at NMSU, and Poya Almasi, a doctoral student. So the funding for this project mainly comes from the NMSU College of Engineering funding. So talking about EcoCFTrack is a wearable sensor that is mainly developed to diagnose and monitor patients with a disease called cystic fibrosis. So what is cystic fibrosis? Cystic fibrosis is a heterogeneous recessive genetic disorder, and it is the most common life-threatening disease in the US. There are about 32,000 patients in the US alone. And patients with this disease have abnormalities in their glands that produce sweat and mucus, thus causing problems such as poor growth, respiratory problems, etc. So EcoCFTrack is a wearable sensor with self-energy harvesting capabilities for diagnosing and monitoring patients with cystic fibrosis. So talking about self-energy harvesting, so this sensor does not have to be provided with an external power source, unlike other wearable sensors out there. So this sensor has the capability of a high sweat chloride concentration is a characteristic of cystic fibrosis patients. And the sweat test, which is the most common test done out there for diagnosis of cystic fibrosis patients, is the gold standard for cystic fibrosis diagnosis. And this is because having a high sweat chloride concentration is like one of the main characteristics of cystic fibrosis patients. Given in the left is an image of a diagnosis being done using an existing cystic fibrosis, that is the sweat collection that is being taken place. But there are many associated problems with these existing methods. First one is the existing methods require high sweat volumes. So when it comes to an adult, they are capable of producing a sufficient amount of sweat for analyzing. But when it comes to an infant, they are not capable of doing that. So either sometimes the infant has to be brought into the facility to repeat the test on some other day, or the same test has to be repeated twice or thrice to collect the required amount of sweat. So it makes a really uncomfortable process for the infants. And secondly, the sweat collection devices that they use currently are inefficient. So as you can see, the wearable sensor that they use is quite not flexible. And also, based on the discussions that we had with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, they told us that they are having difficulties with placing the sweat collector devices that they're using currently on the infants because of its size and because it's not flexible. So there are issues related to that as well. And the current sweat test methods takes about 90 minutes for sweat collection and for analyzing. So it is a considerable amount of time. And also, these sweat tests cost about $400 to $450 per test. Moving on, so diagnose the disease and also monitor the treatment processes, and the physician, all the data can get uploaded to a cloud-based system, and the physician can remotely monitor this data and analyze it, and so the entire EcoCFTrack system can work based on remote health monitoring system. So what is the need and market potential? So as you can see, the existing methods require a sweat collector device and a sweat analyzer separately. So this method is, these products are quite bulky, time consuming, and expensive. But when it comes to EcoCFTrack, it is both a sweat collector and analyzer. So what are the advantages of EcoCFTrack? First of all, it has a scalable design. So the size of the sensor is scalable. We can reduce the size of the sensor based on the patient's requirement. And so when it comes to an infant, we can scale down the sensor. So it's going to be flexible and it's going to be super efficient to be used on an infant. It requires low sweat volumes. So when it comes to an infant, it would be an ideal case because the infant does not have to produce the required large amount of sweat. And also it is not labor intensive, so you don't need two separate people, one person for sweat collection and another person for doing the sweat analysis. And also a lot of technical knowledge is not required to use EcoCFTrack. So it makes the entire process more practical. And also instant diagnosing can be done. So the current methods, after the sweat collection, the samples have to be sent to a laboratory for sweat analysis. But in the case of EcoCFTrack, right after sweat collection, the sensor is capable of providing the results instantly. So a separate sweat analysis does not have to be done, making the entire process less time consuming. And also the materials like thermoplastic polyurethane, the materials that we are currently using are quite costly. Coming slides. So we have done laboratory-based experiments to verify the functioning of EcoCFTrack. So for cystic fibrosis diagnosis, as you can see, the sensor is capable of producing a unique signal based on the chloride concentration in the sweat. And therefore, the sensor is capable of identifying what the sweat chloride concentration is in the sweat. And therefore, that can be used for cystic fibrosis diagnosis. And also, talking about cystic fibrosis treatment monitoring, so there are many treatment methods for cystic fibrosis patients. And out of them, using inhaled medicine is one of them. And the other thing is doing fitness exercises. So fitness exercises is like one of the most common methods for cystic fibrosis treatment. And so the same sensor can be used as a motion tracker as well. So the sensor can be placed at different parts of the body, and the physician can use the sensor to identify whether the patient is following the fitness plan properly. And also, at the same time, the sensor, like the frequency of the exercise being conducted can also be identified. So not only can the physician identify whether the patient is following the fitness exercise properly, but whether he's doing it at the right frequency, that is, whether he is walking or running, etc. So talking about the current status, we are currently at the technology development phase, but we're planning to complete the work by the end of this year. And in the upcoming years, we're planning to do the trial study by collaborating with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and also to do product line development and standardized implementation. So for the plants in motion, we have currently filed the provisional patent. $1,000 for 2 years. And like I said, the potential collaborations with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation to conduct the trial studies and for using the sensor at their facility. The planned commercialization path. So we are currently in the National Science Foundation Regional ICORPS program, and we are hoping to participate in the National ICORPS program as well. And also in the future, in the New Mexico University Research Team page, which is the award pilot program with the intention of starting a startup. So yeah, thank you, and I'm open to questions. And after the session, please feel free to visit us outside. We have a poster out there with all the flyers, so please feel free to visit us. Thank you.
Well done. I'm curious if there is any FDA relevancy here. Is this a medical device?
Yes, it is.
So you'll need to go through the various trials and phases.
Yes,
okay. Second question, are there really two businesses here? Is there a diagnostics business and a fitness tracking business?
Yeah, so like in the case of cystic fibrosis patients, they require diagnosis as well as treatment monitoring. So yes, it does have two functionalities. So it can be used as an alternative maybe for like Fitbit. So it can be used as like a, a tracking device to monitor the motion and etc. So yes, there are like opportunities for two business out here. And so yeah, for in the case of cystic fibrosis patients, it's an complete package for them.
Yeah, I would be interested in understanding if there is a much bigger market out here for the sort of intersection of diagnostics and treatment plans with motion monitoring. So that's quite a
There are about 30,000 patients, and so like usually a single patient has to be tested for at least twice a year, and sometimes sometimes the same patient has to visit the facility regularly, maybe like 2 to 3 times a month to check if the medications are working for them. So usually it's like for the like a single patient has to visit the facility 2 to 3 times a year, but at the initial stages of treatment they have to visit the facility in the first month maybe a couple of times. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. That was really exciting to kind of hear about, making things that are a little bit more scalable and more appropriate for all kinds of bodies out there. My question primarily revolves around thinking about how the different iterations of product development can go. Is there anything in your team that can foresee any material changes to the product itself as it starts developing more?
Yeah, so currently we are using thermoplastic polyurethane, but yes, we are looking into using more flexible polymers, such as maybe thermoplastic elastomers, because they are more flexible. But yes, we are looking into moving into more flexible materials, making like the entire sensor, very efficient in the future.
Well, I was not joking when I said that I'm going to address US President Premadasa.
Okay.
So keeping my end of the bargain, this is a condition, this is a disease for which there is no treatment. And the best you can do is how to manage your lifestyle to kind of deal with it. So
Exactly.
involves CFTR modulators. So I did not see any of that mentioned here. So is this going to replace the modulators as well? Or do you have any plans of kind of coupling and integrating with respect to the existing infrastructure so that for the patients it's a seamless adoption?
Okay, so like I said, like there are two ways in which the cystic fibrosis patients are treated. That is by using inhaled medicine and also by fitness exercises. So these patients, they both inhale medicine like CFTR modulators and also do the fitness exercises parallelly. So this same sensor, like it can be used as a to monitor the fitness exercises, but the same sensor can be used to monitor the treatment process of the medicine. So because when using the CFTR modulators, the sweat chloride concentrations go down in the patient. So like yes, it can be used for diagnosis, but at the same time the same sensor can be used to monitor the reduction in the sweat chloride concentrations.
So there is a theory in this particular space wherein the gene mutation is actually ending up kind of creating other complications like diabetes, obesity. And there are many patients out of that number that you just mentioned, wherein people are not able to kind of get into a fitness regime. So you have to kind of think about the complications as a result of cystic fibrosis and how your solution can tailor to, like going back to you, like the bodies of all types, body types,
Right.
and the conditions and the comorbidities that a patient might have.
Right.
Just a recommendation.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. Okay, thank you.